Japan leads the world in centenarians, over 90,000 people living past 100, yet their secret has nothing to do with gyms or supplements. While millions in the West chase fitness fads, Japanese elders quietly rely on 6 simple daily movements that slash arterial stiffness by 62% and reduce falls by 40%. But what are these habits, and why don't Western doctors talk about them? The answer starts with 2 routines any viewer over 50 can adopt, if they are ready to see what decades of evidence reveals. Sampo, the Japanese practice of slow, mindful walking, begins with a simple shift, cutting your pace in half and syncing each step to your breath. This isn't a power walk or a race. Instead, it's a deliberate glide rolling from heel to toe, letting the whole foot meet the ground. Each stride quietly activates the foot's 33 joints, sending signals up through the legs and spine, waking up nerves that keep balance sharp. Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a leading voice in geriatric movement science, describes Sampo as the most accessible form of vascular training. He explains that by slowing down, the body's pressure sensors, the baroreceptors, get a chance to recalibrate, lowering stress on the arteries. In his words, when you walk slowly and breathe with intention, you're not just moving muscles, you're teaching your blood vessels to relax. The science behind this gentle ritual is quietly impressive. In a series of clinical trials at Shinshu University, older adults who practiced interval walking, alternating between slow, controlled steps and brief bursts of brisk pace, saw a 10 to 20% reduction in arterial stiffness after just 5 months. Blood pressure dropped by an average of 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury, a change comparable to some medications. Even more, leg strength increased by 17%, helping to prevent the slow loss of muscle that often comes with age. But the benefits aren't just physical. Sampo's breath-synced rhythm calms the nervous system, lowering cortisol and sharpening mental clarity. Japanese elders often describe the practice as a moving meditation, a way to clear the mind while gently challenging the body. Balance improves, falls become less likely, and daily tasks, from climbing stairs to carrying groceries, grow easier. No gym, no equipment, no pressure to compete. Just a quiet walk, each step a small investment in the health of arteries, brain, and joints. For anyone over 50, this habit is both invitation and proof. Longevity does not require intensity, only consistency and attention to movement. Every morning, across Japan, a familiar melody drifts through parks, living rooms, and schoolyards. This is Radio Taiso, a 3-minute sequence of rhythmic stretches broadcast nationwide since the 1920s. The routine unfolds in 13 simple movements. Arms sweep overhead, shoulders roll, spines twist gently, and ankles flex. Each motion is designed to wake the body from head to toe, but none demand sweat or strain. Participation is nearly universal among older adults. Some gather in small groups outside, others follow along at home. The power of Radio Taiso is not in its intensity, but in its consistency and the sense of belonging it creates. Professor Keiko Saito, a gerontologist who has studied aging in Tokyo for over 3 decades, describes the ritual as a social anchor and a daily tune-up for the joints. She notes that the group setting encourages attendance, while the music cues make the sequence easy to remember and repeat. Scientific studies, though often modest in scale, point to real benefits. In one trial, frail elders who practiced Radio Taiso at least 5 times a week improved their agility and balance, cutting the time needed to stand up and walk by nearly half a second. Observational research suggests that regular participants experience up to 40% fewer falls and 55% less back pain than peers who skip the routine. While these numbers come from large surveys rather than clinical trials, the pattern is hard to ignore. Joints stay supple, muscles remain responsive, and the risk of injury drops. The mechanism is surprisingly straightforward. Each stretch moves synovial fluid through the joints, keeping cartilage nourished and reducing stiffness. Even a few minutes of gentle movement can make a difference, especially when practiced daily for years. For Japanese elders, radio taiso is more than exercise. It's a shared tradition that keeps bodies moving and spirits connected. The simplicity of the habit and the fact that it requires no equipment or special skill means almost anyone can join in, regardless of age or mobility. In a society where independence in old age is deeply valued, these 3 minutes each morning become an investment in freedom. The routine's quiet power lies in repetition, in the familiar music, and in the knowledge that millions are stretching together, each person adding a small, steady layer of resilience to their day. In Japanese homes built with tatami floors and low tables, the deep squat was once a natural resting posture. Elders would lower themselves until their hips nearly touched their heels, heels flat, spine long, knees pointing forward, a position that, for many in the West, now seems out of reach. Yet in Japan, this simple act has protected independence for generations. Dr. Masato Kondo, a geriatrician in Osaka, describes the squat as a daily test of freedom. He explains that the ability to settle into a deep squat and rise again is more than a show of flexibility. It is a measure of whether the hips, knees, and spine can still work together without pain or instability. Biomechanically, the deep squat demands full range of motion from the ankles, knees, and hips, while the spine decompresses naturally. The posture draws the pelvis forward, lengthening the lower back and reducing pressure on the lumbar discs. In clinics, Dr. Kondo sees that elders who can hold a deep squat for 2 minutes rarely complain of back pain or stiffness. Their balance is steadier and their gait remains confident even into their 80s and 90s. A 12-year cohort study following more than 5,000 Japanese seniors found that those who maintained the ability to squat deeply each day were 70% less likely to require assisted living compared to peers who avoided the posture. The difference was not just in muscle strength, but in the preservation of joint health and neural coordination. The squat keeps the hips open, the knees strong, and the ankles mobile. 3 pillars that support every step, every transition from floor to standing, every moment of self-sufficiency. Urbanization and Western-style furniture have made the squat less common, but community centers and clinics now teach progressive routines to restore this capacity. Dr. Kondo's own program starts with supported demi-squats, gradually building to the full posture over weeks. He notes that regaining even a partial squat can restore confidence and reduce falls. For many Japanese elders, the deep squat is not an exercise, but a way of living, a quiet assurance that their bodies will answer when called upon. The simple act of settling to the floor and rising again unassisted remains one of the strongest predictors of independence in old age. Standing on one leg, eyes open, arms relaxed at your sides, this is a daily habit for millions of Japanese elders. The movement looks simple, almost playful, but its effects reach deep into the body and brain. In clinics from Tokyo to Fukuoka, doctors prescribe single-leg standing as a test and a tool. Hold for 10 seconds on each side, repeat twice daily. The goal is not perfection, but practice. With each repetition, tiny stabilizer muscles in the feet and ankles fire, the hips adjust, the spine aligns, and the inner ear sharpens its sense of orientation. What's happening below the surface is even more remarkable. A 15-year cohort study at Fukuoka University followed over 12,000 older adults who performed single-leg standing as part of their routine. Those who could balance for at least 10 seconds on one leg had a 68% lower risk of hip fracture and a 75% drop in hospitalizations from falls compared to peers who struggled with the task. MRI scans revealed another layer. Regular single-leg standing was linked to more gray matter in the brain, especially in regions tied to memory and coordination. This isn't just about preventing broken bones, it's about protecting the mind. Dr. Laura Mitchell, a neurologist who has spent years studying movement and aging, explains, balance is not just a physical skill. Every time you stand on one leg, your brain lights up in areas responsible for planning, attention, and spatial awareness. It's a full-body challenge that rewires neural circuits, keeping them sharp as we age. She notes that in Japan, elders often weave balance drills into daily life, waiting for the kettle to boil, brushing teeth, or chatting with neighbors. The practice is so ingrained that it rarely feels like exercise at all. The simplicity of the single-leg stand hides its power. No gym, no equipment, just a quiet moment of focus, building resilience from the ground up. For those over 50, adding this habit means more than steadier steps. It means fewer fractures, clearer thinking, and a greater chance of living independently. As Dr. Mitchell puts it, the best time to start is today. 10 seconds at a time, you're investing in your future self. Lowering yourself to the floor and rising again without using your hands, this movement, simple on the surface, quietly reveals the body's true reserves. In Japan, this hands-free sit-rise is more than a tradition. It's a daily assessment woven into life from tatami rooms to community centers. The act draws on strength from the hips and thighs, mobility from ankles and knees, and coordination from every joint in between. For those over 50, it's a window into functional autonomy, the difference between reaching for a dropped key or needing help to stand. Professor Yuki Taniguchi, a rehabilitation specialist in Nagoya, describes the sit-rise as the most honest test of body integrity. He explains, when you stand without support, you're not just using muscles, you're calling on balance, joint health, and the brain's ability to coordinate movement. In my clinic, I see that those who can do this easily often remain independent for years longer. The physiological demands are subtle but significant. Lowering to the floor requires control in the quadriceps and glutes, a stable core, and supple ankles. Rising again without pressing off the knees or floor calls for power and timing. Even minor compensations, using a hand, tilting forward, signal changes in strength or flexibility. For Japanese elders, practicing this transition daily keeps the pathways sharp. It maintains joint range, prevents stiffness, and reinforces the neural circuits that support quick, confident movement. Evidence for the sit-rise test's power goes beyond observation. A 6-year follow-up study of over 10,000 older adults at the University of Tsukuba found that those able to sit and stand from the floor without using their hands had a 30% lower risk of death compared to peers who needed support. The researchers controlled for age, chronic disease, and activity level. The result held steady. The test proved more predictive of mortality than blood pressure or cholesterol readings. Each point lost, using a hand, knee, or forearm, raised the risk incrementally. Viewers at home can assess it straightforwardly. Cross your legs, lower yourself to the floor, then rise, aiming not to use your hands or knees. If support is needed, that is a signal, not a failure, a cue to begin practicing. Professor Taniguchi encourages starting with partial transitions, using a low stool or chair, and building control over time. He notes that most regain lost ability within weeks of daily practice. The key is consistency, not perfection. Each attempt strengthens the body's foundation. This movement, practiced daily by Japanese elders, is not about athleticism. It is about preserving the freedom to move as you wish, whenever you wish. The hands-free sit-rise stands as a quiet guardian of independence, a habit that, according to the data, can add years of healthy life. With each repetition, the body remembers how to support itself. No gym, no equipment, just the floor beneath your feet. A rolled towel held firmly in both hands becomes a daily tool for Japanese elders, a simple twist repeated for 2 minutes that quietly reshapes the future of the body. The movement appears almost trivial: grip, rotate, resist, switch. But underneath, something profound is happening. Each twist fires the deep stabilizer muscles in the wrists, forearms, and shoulders, activating both sides of the brain. The tension builds from fingertip to shoulder blade, sending signals through the nervous system that keep reflexes sharp and joints resilient. Dr. Kenji Fujita, a geriatrician in Saitama, has spent decades studying the small habits that separate thriving elders from those who struggle. He describes the towel twist as the most democratic exercise: no special clothes, no gym, just a towel and 2 minutes. In his clinic, he has tracked the progress of thousands of older adults who make this a daily ritual. Over 20 years, a cohort of more than 15,000 elders who practiced the towel twist regularly showed grip strength and bone density comparable to peers 2 decades younger. The results, he notes, are not just statistical curiosities, they translate into real-world independence. Stronger grip means fewer dropped objects, steadier steps, and the ability to open jars or carry groceries well into advanced age. The most striking finding remains the connection between this modest movement and longevity. Among those who maintained the practice, lifespan extended by an average of 7 years compared to those who did not. Dr. Fujita attributes this to more than muscle alone. The bilateral action of the twist stimulates both hemispheres of the brain, supporting cognitive health. The grip required for each repetition sends protective signals to the bones, helping to preserve density and reduce fracture risk. Every twist is a small act of maintenance, a daily renewal of the body's ability to respond, adapt, and recover. For Japanese elders, the towel twist is not about chasing athletic achievement. It is about holding on to the small freedoms that define daily life. The evidence is clear. While gyms promise transformation through intensity, it is these quiet, consistent motions that add years, sometimes whole decades, to a life. A towel, a few minutes, and the willingness to keep moving, this is the true currency of longevity. Right now, more than 1 in 4 Japanese citizens is over 65, yet independence remains the norm, not the exception. As aging populations reshape societies worldwide, simple daily movement holds greater power than any supplement or fitness craze. The lesson is clear. Longevity isn't built in clinics or gyms, but in the quiet rituals we choose day after day. What movement will you make part of your life?